There's no denying the fact that Suptertunias stop you in your tracks. Hi, I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings, and if you look at this garden bed, this is what we affectionately call our 55-mile-an-hour bed. Because if you don't see the color from this planting going 55 miles an hour, I don't know what you're looking at. This is a beautiful display of the Suptertunia Vista Jazzberry along with the Mecardonia Golddust. The purple and the yellow with this white fence I think is so striking and so vibrant. So this is what you see if you're coming from the north headed to Garden Crossings. Eye-stopping color. Let's go ahead and check out the rest of the beds. Looking here at the Pollinator garden on the north side of the property, the first thing that I'm seeing here is our Let's Dance Ariba hydrangeas. So we have a planting here of 3 of them in the garden. Let's Dance Ariba is a re-blooming hydrangea. It's a big leaf hydrangea that blooms off of new and old growth. So the flowers we're seeing now, it's the beginning of July. These are the flowers that are blooming off of the previous season's growth. The nice thing with Ariba is it's very quick to set new buds. So once these flowers have faded, there's going to be a next cycle of flowers just waiting to happen. Typically, we've kind of avoided planting the big leaf or macrophylla hydrangeas here because they just don't do well in our Zone 6A gardens. But these Let's Dance are doing fabulous, and this gives me real hope that I could be planting more of the big leaf hydrangeas here in our garden beds. We've got a beautiful mass planting of the Suptertunia. This is the Hoopla Vivid Orchid. One thing we're noticing with the Vivid Orchid is the hotter it gets, the larger that white margin on the edge gets. So in the cooler weather, the margin is a little smaller. And here in the hotter weather, we're seeing a lot wider margin. We also have some of the pink cashmere verbena or superbena planted. And both of these are new annual varieties for 2024 and have been top sellers like right off the gate. As soon as we listed these available online, they were quickly headed to the top as far as fast selling annuals. Up here on the hill, we've got some of our beautiful clematis blooming right now. We have our pink mink clematis, which features smaller shape or smaller size flowers, but a ton of them. So pink mink may not be the biggest flower in the lineup, but it definitely has a lot of flowers. Next to it is Happy Jack, which is the dark purple, and then behind it is Jolly Good, which is also a smaller flower form, but a lot of them. As you can see, we like to plant 3 different plants on a trellis or support, because that way if one's not blooming, maybe another one would. And here we're fortunate enough that they're all blooming at the same time. What about this Veronica? This is the Magic Show Purple Illusion. Beautiful flower spikes. This Veronica is just loaded right now with honeybees, bumblebees, and native bees. I love the habit of the Magic Show Purple Illusion. It's only about 20, maybe 24 inches tall and wide, creating a beautiful mounding habit. Just a nice poke of upright spikes of flower color. Here's another purple illusion, so you can see it in another planting as well. The spun silk leucanthemum are looking fabulous. So these are actually a lot taller than I was thinking they were going to be. These are almost about 30 to 36 inches tall. The nice thing with the spun silk leucanthemum, these are proven winner Shasta daisies, is they have very large frilly flowers. So when I say frilly, you'll notice on the tips how they're kind of like heavily serrated. So you're getting a lot of petals, even though they're a little skinnier and a little bit more frilly than some of the other varieties. Just a massive covering of flowers here on these leucanthemum spun silk. It's so pretty to really just sit and stare and look at these plants, especially ones that maybe you haven't seen bloom a lot or aren't that familiar with. I think the nice thing with doing these videos is that you're able to see all of these great plants in an actual garden setting, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, you know, if a plant's not doing good, you're going to see it as I'm talking about it in the gardens. And it doesn't mean it's not a good plant. It just means it may not be happy in the garden it's planted in. But just looking at this spun silk, I'm taking time, and I'm really trying to get the most out of this plant because it is just so beautiful. I'm loving the petals on that. It takes a lot to stop me in my tracks, let's be honest. Here's a grouping of the yarrow. These here are part of the Firefly series. We have Firefly Peach Sky, Firefly Sunshine, and Firefly White Diamond. And in the back, just newly planted, is the Firefly Cake Pop. The nice thing with this grouping is, as you can see, all of the Firefly series kind of all planted in one spot, just to compare the colorations and the habits of each of them in one space. Monarda or Bee Balm have been doing fabulous. Right now, the Leading Lady series is really putting on a nice show. We've got the Leading Lady Lavender, Leading Lady Pink, and then I believe that's the Leading Lady Rose next to it. You can see how they have a pretty uniform height habit, and the coloration one to the other. You can kind of see what they look like that way as well. Lavender, it's definitely lavender harvesting season if you are into trimming your lavender. This is the Sweet Romance Lavender, just a nice compact flower form. It's only about 20 inches tall, 20 inches wide, and just a really nice, clean looking plant. Heliopsis are looking great as well. This is the Heliopsis Touch of Sun. Just had a loss of the name, but a beautiful bicolor leaf with a beautiful golden edges. I love how you can use the foliage interest before this flower is actually flowering, and then paired well with that beautiful golden flower. It's a match made in heaven. Coneflower are starting to bloom, and I love when planting coneflower to do them in mass. Just taking one color and planting it to me is kind of boring. I like to plant all the things. So in this grouping, we did mass plantings of several coneflowers. We've got white ones, and we've got melon ones, and pink ones, and red ones, and orange ones, and in all the colors of them. So I love the coneflowers. They attract the pollinators. The birds love the seeds, so when they're done flowering, you can leave the seeds on for interest. And it's really unique when you plant all the colors together to create just kind of a sea of echinacea or coneflower beauty. We've got some sedum here, kind of towards the end of its bloom cycle. Sedum, this one is Bright Idea, I believe. Green foliage, yellow flowers, a summer bloomer. Nice red stems, looking really good. Pink Profusion Salvia and Violet Riot. I keep saying we got to get out here and trim these, but we haven't done it yet. The gardeners haven't done it yet either. But if we go ahead and trim these back, they'll continue to rebloom throughout the summer. But even though we haven't trimmed them back, there's still a lot of coloration just from the spent blooms. So even from a distance, these plants are really putting on quite a beautiful show of color. We've got the Bermuda Beach Suptertunias planted with the Mini Vista Ultramarine. Bermuda Beach was always one of those colors I wasn't super fond of, but man, planting it with a purple, that takes a whole new meaning onto Bermuda Beach, and they pair so well together. The reason why I never cared for Bermuda Beach is because it's a hard pink to deal with. So if you see these pink diamond dicentra behind it, the pinks just don't go good together. It's okay for this planting, but when you're creating annual combinations, it's just hard to mix the Bermuda Beach with other pinks. But here's a perfect way of taking that plant and utilizing it with colors that are very complementary. I mentioned the pink diamonds dicentra. This is a bleeding heart that likes to be grown in full sun locations. This plant is one of the first things to start blooming here in the garden, and continues looking exactly like you're seeing here today all summer long into the fall. This is a very, very hardworking perennial. Hardworking because it never stops flowering, and big flower clusters, big bunches of flowers. It just continues to go all summer long. So dicentra pink diamonds is a must-have in my book. The Stand By Me purple clematis is looking pretty nice as well. That's been blooming for quite a few weeks now. We have it planted in a tomato cage because it's non-clinging clematis, so it does like to have something that will hold it up, and this tomato cage is the perfect thing for this plant. It just nicely holds it all into place and keeps all the flowers up on top. Beautiful purple bell-shaped flowers, and when these are done blooming, the seed heads, they also have a lot of really unique summer interest. Some more of the pink cashmere verbena, which was one of the top selling annuals this year. Asclepias Hello Yellow, for those of you who like to raise the monarchs. Hello Yellow is a host plant for monarch butterflies, as well as an excellent pollinator plant. The hummingbees are loving it. We've got our Durvilla planted here. We've got Kodiak Red, Orange, and Kodiak Fresh. These are hardworking shrubs, native varieties for sun to shade. The more sun they get, the more vibrant the coloration is on these plants. The flowers are flowering right now. They're not super significant, but the flowers you are seeing are the flowers that they produce. And although insignificant, the bees love this plant. It is loaded right now with the pollinating bees. Boom Chocolata, this is a hardy cranesbill geranium, and this plant has been going strong for many, many weeks. And it's dark foliage. Even when the flowers are done, the dark foliage is still outstanding here in the landscape and pairs really nicely, especially with that Durvilla Kodiak Fresh. We've got a pairing here of the Tropical Rose Sun Patiens with the Lime-Time Coleus. That Lime-Time Coleus is really kind of nice with those because it's really drawing out that yellow foliage of the Tropical Rose and just making everything, I think, really pop nicely here in the landscape. Butterfly bushes are starting to bloom. Here we have the Miss Violet. Miss Violet gets about 4 foot tall and 4 foot wide, and it's so fragrant. I just love the smell of butterfly bushes. And here we have a painted lady showing off, just saying, yes, this is a butterfly bush, and yes, we do love it. This has had a lot of painted ladies coming and going as we've been out here in the garden. I've been watching them kind of all head in this direction. So we've got Miss Violet, and we also have Miss Molly. Miss Molly is more of a magenta color. So the Miss series of butterfly bush get about 4 foot tall by 4 foot wide. Miss Molly is a little bit shorter right now than Miss Violet, but these have only been here in the garden for maybe they're going on their 2nd or 3rd year. And the first few years this garden really had a hard time taking off. So this year is the first year that this garden really feels like it's flourishing and doing well. Got the Tropical Rose, more of the Tropical Rose Sun Patiens. Oh, and then Miss Pearl. We've got the Miss Pearl butterfly bush as well. Miss Pearl is very compact. This one too, at maturity, will get 4 foot tall. But this one just obviously had a very slow start here this season. But even though it had a slow start, it's really rewarding us with some really pretty white blooms. Magic Show Ever After. Veronica looks really nice with that light periwinkle blue blooms. A nice plant for mass planting. Looking good with that Tropical Rose Sun Patient as well. Tropical Rose really looks nice when you pair it with something complementary. Got some more milkweed. This is Asclepias Milkmaid, which is a white variety. This year we raised over 30 different varieties of milkweed for the monarchs that we raise in our butterfly house. Some of them are tropical, some of them are perennial, and we've just kind of dabbled with putting them throughout here in the landscape. Daylilies are waiting to bloom. They're loaded with buds. We do actually have one flower here. This is on the orange smoothie. Look at that beautiful ruffled edge. Nice kind of yellow apricot color. Orange smoothie is a reblooming daylily, so that one will bloom throughout the summer once it gets started. I'm loving this drift of Tropical Rose Impatient. I guess I didn't notice that, when this was first planted, but now as they're starting to mature and fill out a little bit, it's really becoming very apparent that there was a drift of these sun patiens planted in this garden bed. We also did some lantana. We planted lantana last year and it did really well. I believe this one is lemon tart. Drought tolerant, loves the heat. Hummingbirds love it. Easy to grow as long as you have kind of drier areas and lots of sun. The orange blooming milkweed is Asclepias tuberosa, which is one that you'll often find along roadsides. If you see masses of orange flowers, it's probably the Asclepias tuberosa that you're seeing. So in my home garden, I have a hard time growing that because we just water too much. It is a milkweed that prefers more of a drier type area to thrive. The foliage here of the oregano drops of Jupiter is absolutely beautiful right now. Bright chartreuse yellow-green. It is starting to flower. It's got a little bit of a lavender purple blooms, and it's just at its starting point. So as the summer goes on, this plant is going to be loaded with purple flowers. We have it paired with the penstemon behind it. That's the Midnight Masquerade. And that dark foliage of the Midnight Masquerade, along with the light foliage of the drops of Jupiter, really create a stunning pop of color in this garden bed. Got some daisy May leucanthemum. It's really the daisy season right now as well. The daisies are in their prime and are just looking absolutely beautiful. And daisies and lavender are a great plant to pair together in your garden. Thanks for walking through the garden with me today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. If you're new to our station, we welcome you to subscribe. You can head to our website, gardencrossings.com, if you want more information on any of these plants that we saw in today's garden tour. Thanks for watching. I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings.